I can request the brothers who are sat near the door, if you can come inside, so the brothers that will inshallah come later on, they are not inconvenienced. Jazakallah. And there's lots of gaps in front of you, please do fill them in. Just Jazakallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وفي أموالهم حق للسائل والمحروم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما تصدق أحد بصدقة من طيب ولا يقبل الله إلا الطيب إلا أخذها الرحمن بيمينه وإن كانت تمرة تربو في كف الرحمن حتى تكون أعظم من الجبل أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Honorable ulama, respected elders, brothers, as I mentioned in my brief introduction after Salatul Asr, Zakah is a very important topic indeed. Very important topic. And at times, it can also be very detailed. And if a person does not make an effort to understand the various rulings and masail of Zakah, then it can sometimes also be confusing. And the worst case scenario will be that the person discharges the obligation of zakah, but does so either incorrectly or inaccurately. So either he fails to give zakah on items which he should be giving zakah, or he fails to give the correct amount of zakah which he should be giving. So we thought we'll have 2 sessions at the beginning of Ramadan, because it is at the beginning of Ramadan or in the month of Ramadan when Muslims generally discharge this very important obligation of zakah. Now, our aim is 2 things. First and foremost, to simplify zakah as much as possible and to present zakah in a way which is easy to understand and apply to our daily lives. Okay, that's first aim. And the second main aim is to also make zakah relevant. Many a times you might have read books on zakah which deals with zakah on agricultural output, on livestock, animals. So these are things that we will not be touching. Rather, we will be touching issues and masail which are more relevant to today, to the 21st century, in relation to zakah, when it comes to mortgages, when it comes to pensions, and all of these things, inshallah, we will be discussing. Just something to also mention from the outset, we will be discussing whatever fiqh we will be mentioning here. This will be in relation to the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, and also to clarify, it will be the mainstream position of the Hanafi school of fiqh. Okay, you might get individual opinions in the Hanafi school of fiqh, but here we will be discussing the mainstream positions only. So I think we'll make a start. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Just very quickly to start us off, what is zakah? We have given here 2 meanings from a lexical perspective. Lexical means basically, if you were to pick up an Arabic dictionary, what meaning of zakah would you get? The first meaning you have is to increase. Okay, zakah means to increase. Now I want to keep this discussion as interactive as possible. So I will ask you the question, why do you think zakah means to increase? Can anybody tell me?
If you purify your asset, and if you give it out of to whatever is demanded, so Allah will give barakah.
Allah will give barakah, mashallah. Okay, so Allah, zakah means to increase. How will increase work with zakah? The first meaning is that by discharging zakah, Allah will give you barakah in the remainder of your wealth. Though it may seem that a person who is discharging £100, £500, 1,000, 2,000 pounds of zakah, that is actually physically decreasing the wealth of that individual. However, and this is the main thing that we need to appreciate, increase is from the perspective of barakah in the remainder of your wealth. Allah will give you barakah in your wealth that will make your wealth last longer and more. And the things that you used to buy with certain amount of money, you will notice yourself that you will be able to buy much more with that. Anything else on increasing? How does zakah increase something? No? Zakah also increases your reward. Zakah also increases your reward. The hadith which I mentioned just at the start, a person gives a little amount of charity, as long as that charity is from halal sources, and secondly, it is done with the sole purpose of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا أَخَذَهَا الرَّحْمَنُ بِيَمِينٍ. Allah accepts this first and foremost. Okay? Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that even if it is one date a person gives in the path of Allah as charity, the reward of this continues to grow and grow and grow until it becomes larger even than a mountain. Okay, so one date, how much does it cost one date? 10 pence, 20 pence. So a person gives that in charity, gives it to somebody who is going to break his fast, okay, or gives it to a poor person. As long as it's from halal sources, as long as it is sincerely given, that person will be rewarded in a manner where the reward will be greater than a mountain. Now, how much more greater, we don't know, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hasn't mentioned. Okay, but it will be greater than a mountain. So a lot of reward a person can achieve. Purification, how is zakah a purifier? Anybody before I tell you? No? Not a very responsive group today. Purification is that the remainder of your wealth is purified through giving zakah. Okay, that's one meaning. And the other meaning of purification is that it purifies the person who is giving zakah from the evil effects of wealth. So the person giving zakah, it purifies him from the evil effects of wealth. For example, one of the evil effects of wealth is that naturally it creates a greed in the heart of a person. The more you have, the more you want. Okay, so zakah is there as a purification because it helps a person overcome this greed. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ. This is in the Quran also. So that's the meaning in terms of the lexical meaning of zakah. Islamically, we all know it's a payment of 2.5% paid every year, once a lunar year, to the poor. We've got here Quranic verses or Quran verse. وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَها فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Those who hold that gold and silver. Now the Quran only talks about gold and silver, and it doesn't talk about other zakatable assets, because gold and silver was and probably is still the dominant zakatable asset in terms of value. That's why the Quran deals with gold and silver only. Okay, but this contains all the zakatable assets, which inshallah we will discuss in detail as we move through the PowerPoint presentation. So those who hoard their gold and silver, don't give their zakah. This is what's going to happen. On that day, this gold and silver will be heated up in the fire of hell. Then their foreheads, their sides and their backs will be branded. So their foreheads, their sides and their backs. Just a very interesting point of tafsir, which I will mention here, is that why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He has mentioned forehead first, then the side, then the back. So for this person who doesn't give his zakah, he will be branded with the gold and silver on the forehead, on the side and on the back. Mufassirin have written here that the reason for this is that when somebody comes to ask you for money and for help, yeah, so let's say Maulana Ismail Sahib comes to me and he says, for Allah's sake, give me some charity, yeah. If I am going to deny that and reject that, yeah, my first rejection will be from the angle where Maulana Ismail will see my forehead. Yeah, so I'll show you, physically show you. So I'm going to first reject verbally like this. Then I'm going to turn away like this. So the first thing he's going to see now is going to be my side. And then I'm going to turn away completely and walk away, so he will see my back. So this is the i'jaz of the Quran, that the Quran has specifically mentioned the order of the punishment being the forehead first, then the sides, and then the back. Because this is how generally the person who rejects or denies somebody else zakah or any charity for that matter, this is how it generally transpires. Okay, so this is the punishment, one of the punishments that will be given. Hadith also mentions on the day of resurrection, his wealth will appear like a bald-headed poisonous snake with two horns. Okay, a bald-headed poisonous snake, bald-headed, these are the snakes whose poison is the greatest. Okay, and the reason for the two horns, it's scary. So basically, in this hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is trying to highlight to me and you that if you don't discharge zakah at all, or you don't discharge zakah as you should, then this is the punishment that is awaiting you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us all from this. Very quickly moving on. Social benefits, I'm not going to go through all of them because generally what happens sometimes is a lot of time is spent on these things, and when it comes to the actual practical zakah, it is rushed. So I'm just going to talk about one or two. Let's look at the economic benefits. Economic benefits. If you give zakah, there will be economic benefits. What does that mean?
Equal distribution of wealth. Equal distribution of wealth.
Okay, so the first thing that will happen is, rather than the money being concentrated amongst a selected or elite percentage of the population, and particularly of the Muslim Ummah, this wealth will now trickle down to everybody. Now what are they going to do with that money? They're going to spend it. So the poor people, they will spend it. Whereas the rich people, they will probably just put it in a high interest savings rate, whatever they're called, ISA, whatever they're called, yeah? And accumulate interest. What benefit? No benefit. Whereas if that money is distributed to the poor will spend that money on their basic needs, on clothing, on food, etc. Yeah? If they spend that money, yeah, it keeps the shopkeepers in business. And if the shopkeepers are in business, then people like Firoz will be in business, who distribute to them fruit and veg, some free advertisement for Firoz as well. Yeah? And that goes across all the way to the chain. So economic benefits, reduction of elimination of poverty is quite clear. Reduction in crime. What do I mean by that? If you give zakah, there will be a reduction of crime. Yeah, generally, why do people steal? Why do people steal money and items from other people? Because of poverty. Okay? And if they have their money or sufficient money to fulfill their needs, then they will not need to do what they are doing. Who must give zakah? Number one, Muslim. Non-Muslims are not expected to give zakah. No Islamic obligation is compulsory on a non-Muslim. Okay, zakah, hajj, saum, all of these things, they are only fard on a Muslim. Number two, the person must be sane, must be mentally, they must be they must be balanced in terms of mental capacity. And number three, they must be adult. Children do not have to give zakah. You can have somebody who is really rich, a child who's not reached the age of puberty, they have got 20,000, 30,000 pounds in their savings account, that money is for the children, there is no zakat on that. Okay? They will only pay zakat on this once they become mature, baligh, and the other conditions come in, which inshallah we will discuss as we move on. And number four, which is also a very important condition, your wealth must reach the nisab value. The wealth must reach the nisab value What is the nisab value? Inshallah, we will discuss this in detail. But at this stage, this is a summary of who is expected to give zakah. Okay? And the person who has the minimum threshold, nisab, he is called sahibun nisab. Please do remember these terms. Nisab, which is the minimum threshold, and sahibun nisab is the person who has the minimum threshold, as I will be mentioning these terms as we go through the PowerPoint presentation. Who can receive zakah in the Quran? إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها إلى آخر الآية. Allah talks about 8 recipients of zakah. Okay, the main two are the first two. Okay, the main two are the first two. Fuqara I've translated as poor. Masakin I've translated as destitute. What's the difference between them? A faqir Islamically is a person man la shay'a lah. Yeah, man la shay'a lah. That means that person even struggles to make ends meet. Can't meet their basic needs. Food is a problem. Okay, food is a problem. Shelter is a problem. Clothing is a problem. So man la shay'a lah. And miskin, man lahu adna shay'. Miskin is a person who meets the basic needs. So can provide food to the family, can provide shelter, can provide clothing, etc. However, anything beyond that, they don't have sufficient assets which reach the nisab value. Okay, so a miskin is a person who can meet the basic needs, but anything beyond that, they don't have anything that reaches, or whatever they have, it doesn't reach the nisab value. Okay, what is the nisab value? Inshallah, we will be discussing this later on. Okay, but these are the two main categories of recipients of zakah. That's why we will only mention these and discuss these. The others really, they don't really apply, or should I say, in the other categories generally also the condition of faqir and miskin has to be there anyway. Okay, so we won't discuss the others, we will leave it at that. Who we cannot give zakat to? You can't give zakat to a non-Muslim. Okay, you can't give zakat to a non-Muslim. So you might have a friend who is very poor, going through very difficult times, and they've got no money to their name, but you know they are non-Muslim. And somebody asks myself, can I give him zakat? No, you can't. Zakat is only for Muslims. If you really want to help the non-Muslim, then give from your general daily sadaqah, from your other money. Number 2, Hashimi. Hashimi are certain strands, certain members of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not all of them. Okay, certain strands of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who cannot be given zakah. Okay, again, it's not something that is too applicable to us, hence we will leave the detail for that. Number 3, you can't pay to your descendants. So I can't pay to my children, my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all the way down. Number 4, pays ascendants. You can't give up. You can't give to your parents, you can't give to your grandparents, great-grandparents, etc. So up and down, you cannot give zakah. Okay? Number 5, you can't give it to your partner. Husband can't give zakat to wife. Wife can't give zakat to husband. Okay? Apart from number 3, 4 and 5. So up, down and side, you can give zakat to any other relative. Okay? Uncle, auntie, brother, sister, for that matter. All of these relatives you can give zakah to. In fact, giving zakah to family members is better than giving zakah to somebody who is a non-relative. Why? Because when you are giving zakah to a family member, there are 2 things that you are fulfilling. Number 1, you are doing silatul arham, you are maintaining family ties. And number 2, you are discharging the obligation of zakah, so you get double reward. If it's a non-relative, you don't get the first reward, you only get the second reward. That's why when you are discharging your zakah, first try and find out, is there anybody in my family who is eligible to receive zakah, maybe back home, wherever, and try and give your zakah to that person. Okay? And number 6, you cannot give zakah to somebody who is sahibun nisab. Okay? You cannot give zakah to somebody who has the minimum threshold of wealth which Sharia has stipulated as nisab. Okay? Again, inshallah, as we go through, you will understand this better. Conditions for validity of zakah. Your zakah will only be fulfilled if these 3 conditions are met. I can't make it any clearer than that. Okay? Your zakah will only be fulfilled if these 3 conditions are met. Number 1, your intention when you are giving the zakah or separating the wealth. So I'll give you an example. Yeah, let's say you are you're self-distributing zakah funds, and you've identified a person who is eligible to receive zakah. Yeah, you've identified a person who is eligible to receive zakah. So when you are giving that money to the person who is giving, who is eligible to receive the zakah, your intention must be there. Okay, of zakah. Or setting aside zakah. An example of that would be that you're at home, you've calculated your zakah, or I have to give £500 zakah. And then you take out your notes, the notes that you have, £500, you set it aside there, and this is my zakat now. Yeah? So you made the intention, when you've set the money aside for zakah, yeah? Now, when you're giving it to the poor, your intention might not be there. But because you made the intention when you have set the money aside, that intention will be sufficient. So intention either has to be when you are giving it, or intention has to be when you are setting the money aside for zakah. Okay? I'll just mention this very quickly. Let's say somebody has given money to a poor person, and he's given, let's say, £20 to a poor person. Yeah? At that time, he didn't make intention of zakah. Nor did he make intention when he had separated the money. Later, after an hour or so, he realizes, somebody tells him, you know what, that person was zakah eligible. You could have given him your zakah. And he didn't make that intention at that time. So will that zakah be discharged? The answer is, if that money is still with the poor person, then the zakah can be the zakah can be considered as discharged. So you can make your intention then. But if the money has been used up by the poor person, then you can't make the intention then, because you missed your opportunity. Is that right? Number 2, recipient must be eligible. What do I mean by that? The recipient must be eligible. Come on, please talk to me.
Zakat na haqdar hua.
Sorry?
Zakat na haqdar hua.
Okay, zakat haqdar. What does that mean? Sorry.
It's not about the threshold.
Yes, he's got to be below the threshold. He's got to be below the threshold of nisab. In other words, he's got to be poor. He's got to be either faqir, man la shay'a lah, or man lahu adna shay', a miskin. Okay? So that's the second condition. And the third condition is recipient must be made the owner. Whenever, this is a very important condition. Okay, a lot of people get confused with this and they come up with all sorts of questions, and this condition is met. Okay? So when you're giving zakah, yeah, whether you're giving zakah as money or something else, remember you can give something else as zakah as well. You don't have to give money. You've got to make the recipient the owner of whatever you're giving them. In Arabic, it's called tamlik. So I'll give you an example. There's a poor person in India. Yeah, he owes me £5,000. Yeah, he owes me £5,000. He can't pay me. I've got a house in India, so I say to him, right, okay, you can live in my house rent-free for 2 years. The house doesn't belong to you, the house belongs to me, but all the rent for the 2 years, I won't charge you rent, but that will be considered as though you've paid me my money back. And I will consider it as though I have paid my zakat. Does that make sense? So I'm letting him live in my house, yeah, it's still my house, I'm letting him live rent-free, yeah, rent-free, and the rent which is going to accumulate for 2 years, that money he's going to give me as though he's paying me back my debt, and whatever zakat I've got to give, I'll say, okay, I've given that in zakat. Will that be allowed? Why not? Because I have not made him the owner. If I want my zakah obligation to be fulfilled, I have to make him owner of that house. It can't be a service or ijara. What's ijara? Lease or renting. It can't be renting. It's almost he's renting from me. Yeah, he's giving me rent every month. Yeah, and I'm using that rent to offset any zakah liability on me. That's not permissible. You've got to make the person the owner of that money or whatever you're giving.
So is there any way that you can have a provision that okay, this person can stay 2 years in that house and he became the owner of that house for 2 years?
No.
No.
How can you be owner for 2 years? That's temporary. To get it.
Like the lease and
No, like I said, lease and rent and stuff, you can't do that. You've got to make the person the owner. That's why, I'll give you an example. A lot of the times, a lot of charities, what they do is they will make a house in India, probably cost about £1,400, £2,000, very poor areas like Rajasthan, yeah? Charities make these houses, and they say you can give zakat. They say you can give zakat. So you give your zakah, the house is made. Then what the charity does is they make the poor individual who is eligible to receive zakah the owner of that house. So your zakah is discharged. Why? Because you gave that money. That money was used to make the house. Yeah? The house was made and then the house was given in ownership to the poor individual. That's fine. But what's not permissible is you let somebody live in it rent-free and you offset it against your zakat. This condition is very important. A lot of people have asked questions regarding this. So these three conditions, if you don't know them, please know them. And if you're going to forget them, take a screenshot or take a photo. Do you understand?
You know the rent that you said that you make it for 2 years?
Yeah.
Can you not say the money is like that? The money that you were taking?
No. What money?
Is that linked to the idea that because he doesn't own it?
Ownership. Ownership is key. Tamlik. Okay? The Arabic word tamlik, that's absolutely key. Whatever you give the other person, the recipient must be made the owner. Okay, what are zakatable assets? Things you have to give zakah on. Okay? Things you have to give zakah on. We don't have a lot of slides. Okay? Not a lot of slides. Inshallah, towards the end of tomorrow, what we will do is we will go through a few case studies so people understand zakah, and inshallah we will also take some more of your questions, and we will also go through some things that people generally ask regarding zakah, and inshallah we'll have a Q&A. Inshallah will be here as well. Zakatable assets, gold and silver. If you have gold or silver, that is zakatable. As long as the gold or silver is 50% or more gold or silver. Okay? So the gold content or the silver content must be 50% or more. 24 karat gold is considered pure gold. Okay? So, according to what I've mentioned, for gold to be zakatable, it's got to be 12 karat or more. If it is less than that, then that item of gold or silver will not be zakatable. Simple? Okay. The gold and silver, whether it's for business or whether it's for personal use, according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, it is zakatable. So women, their gold, it is zakatable. Okay? Even though it's for personal use. As long as it is how many carats? 12 karat gold. Okay? Cash. Cash includes all types of cash that you have in the bank. It can include money that you have in your wallet, money that you have in a little plastic wallet or in a leather pouch or under your mattress, or all that money is included in here. Okay? Some people also have gift vouchers. Gift vouchers. £50 Debenham gift voucher. Okay? This will also be added to cash. Okay? Gift vouchers, they will also be added to cash. If somebody owes you money, Yeah, you've given somebody £5,000 to borrow. That person owes you the money, and you have hope, okay, that money is going to come to you. It's not a bad debt. Then that is also zakatable. You will total all that up in your cash. Okay? Simple? Next one, business assets. Business assets basically is, I'll come back to you. Business assets is stock. Stock. So if you hold a business, yeah, let's say your business is takeaway. Yeah? So what's your stock going to be?
Food.
Chips. Betul?
Burger.
Burgers. Betul? Dalam buku lagi. What else? Huh? Yeah, so you know what I mean, don't you? So anything that he is going to sell, yeah, that's considered his stock. So when he is working out his zakah, he will calculate what is my stock worth. Okay? And he will add that to his zakatable assets and calculate his zakah. Now, which value do you take? Which value do you take? Okay? This is a common question asked by business people who have stock and things like that. One is the cost price. It's the price that it cost you to buy the burgers and the chips. Yeah? One is the selling price, which is what you're going to sell at to your customers. So let's say a burger costs you 50 pence, and you're going to sell it at £1.50. So 50 pence is the cost price, £1.50 is the selling price. Yeah? So which price do you take? The answer is neither of them. Rather, what ulama have said here is that the price that you will calculate, is the lot selling price. Lot selling price. Lot selling price basically means if you were to gather all your stock and you were to get rid of all the stock in one go, the price you would get for that, that's the price you will calculate at. So for example, I don't know, yeah, if the cost price of burgers is 50 pence per burger, selling at £1.50, the lot price of 100, 200 burgers might be 75 pence, £1. That's the value you will take when you are calculating the value of your stock. Okay? Each individual will have to make a decision according to their business and the items that they are selling. I'm not an expert in everything. In fact, I'm not an expert in any sort of business. So you have to make a decision accordingly. If you're unsure, you can obviously ask a scholar, Mufti Saab, Mufti Javed is here also as well. Any questions so far? The last two, livestock, animals and agricultural output, we're not going to discuss because that is something that is not relevant to us. We don't have animals, we don't have agricultural output. G.
I read that cash is for the cash, it's not very intrinsic value. That would you actually include?
That's why I mentioned at the start of the PowerPoint presentation that we will be discussing the mainstream. There's opinions like that, but the bottom line is cash will be considered zakatable because there is a value. Okay, there is a value. Mufti, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I know it used to be associated to gold and then it got separated from that. But according to the majority view, because the cash, although it doesn't all intrinsic value over a period of time, it has somehow got some intrinsic value to it. Yeah, and therefore zakat will be given.
Shall we? Pensions we'll inshallah discuss tomorrow when we have the Q&A. Okay, inshallah we'll come back to that. Shall we just discuss one last slide and then we'll inshallah continue tomorrow. Okay? These are things which are not zakatable. You don't give zakat on these things. Number one, personal belongings. That can include your home, which you live in, your car that you use, your clothes, sofas in your house. Anything that you use is non-zakatable. You could be a person who has 10 cars, but you use each and every one of them because they are for personal use, non-zakatable. You could be an individual who has a house here, a house in Spain, a house in Italy, a house in Dubai, and 2 houses in Baruch. Okay? But you live in them. They are for personal use. So the value of those items and those homes and houses will not be zakatable. Why? Because they are for personal use. Okay. Number 2, business items. Business items means anything you use in your business to help you in your business. So let's take the takeaway example. Yeah. All the equipment that the person in the takeaway uses, fryers, what else? Tills, fridges, freezers, yeah, pizza makers, all of these things, they're not zakatable. Okay? Only the stock is zakatable. Number 3, gemstones. Gemstones means special stones like diamonds, rubies. If they are for personal collection, they are non-zakatable. If, however, somebody does business and trades in diamonds and rubies and gemstones and things like that, then obviously it will be zakatable, and it will be zakatable according to the value of the items on the zakat date. Okay, but if it's personal use, you're just collecting, some people like to collect, then it is not zakatable. Number 4, haram wealth. If you know for certain that in my £50,000, £5,000 is definitely haram money, you don't give zakat on that. What do you do to that? Come on, what do you do to that £5,000? Yeah, first thing you try and do, you give it back to where it came from. If you know where it came from and you can give it back to where it came from, you give it back where it came from. Okay? If that is not possible, then it is wajibut tasadduq. That means you have to give sadaqah of it. And you can give it in any charity, okay, any charity, but you will not get any reward for it. وَلَا يَقْبَلُ اللَّهُ إِلَّا الطَّيِّبِ. Allah only accepts that charity which comes from halal sources. So if you have any haram money and you know that this is haram money, don't add it to your cash and work out zakah on it. Rather, take it out, give it in charity with no hope of reward from Allah. Okay? No reward, no hope of reward from Allah for that haram wealth. And number 5, debts. If you owe money to somebody, then these debts are also deductible. Now there's a bit of detail in here, so I think we'll call it a day here, and inshallah we'll continue with this tomorrow, because debts are of different types. There's mortgages, there's Islamic mortgages, there's also money that you borrow from other people. So inshallah we'll discuss this in detail tomorrow after Asr Salah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.